you still have some heightened awareness, either kinesthetic or visual or a combination of both, of your hip joints. So I see some people doing little movements of rolling their leg, a little inward and a little outward. One at a time. Both together is going to give you a different message. It's going to turn your pelvis when they're turning in the same direction. It's more likely to turn your pelvis rather than be turning in your hip joints. So, are we all here? Please roll over and lie on your left side. Bend your legs comfortably. You can put your head on your hand or something under your head, but just take a moment to lie on the side to sense your breathing. Now, just think about this for a moment, because you might notice you start to plan with either a visual or a kinesthetic image. Please bring your right foot to stand on the floor in front, above your left knee, with your right knee in the air. Did you hold your breath? And then, so go back. I will. Slowly bring your right leg to stand your right foot on the floor, somewhere in front of your abdomen, above your left thigh, with the sole of your foot on the floor and your knee in the air. And just notice how it is to bring your leg into this position. And go back in and out of it a few times. What happens in your hip joint? What happens in your pelvis? Where do you choose to stand your foot? And what orientation do your toes have? Is your foot more in the direction of your torso, or a little bit more away from yourself, or more in the direction of your head? The next time you stand your right foot on the floor in front of yourself, could you reach down with your left hand and hold your left ankle, but your foot stays on the floor? And then bring your right hand to hold below your kneecap, so your arms are kind of parallel. Your right hand is below your kneecap. Your left hand is on your front of your lower shin or your ankle. And your left hand is on the front of your shin, your lower ankle. Your right foot is standing. And your left hand is below your kneecap, with your fingers pointing away from your head. Away from your head. So this is curious. This is actually quite a difficult position, because it's unusual to direct people into. So there's still a few people who haven't found it. So rest again. You bend your legs both legs on top of one another. Now your left leg is going to stay bent unless it's impossible for you to do so. So you bring your right leg towards your torso in a way that you could stand the sole of your right foot on the floor with your knee in the direction of the ceiling. What's possible for you now? And your left hip joint stays bent. Your left leg stays where it was when you were lying on, yes. And your right foot comes to stand on the floor above your left without straightening your other leg. Your left hand holds your ankle from the top of your shin, and your right hand holds the top of your right lower leg below the kneecap with your little finger side uppermost. Your little finger side towards the ceiling. Yes. So your arms, it's as if your arms are extended out in front of you and they're more or less parallel. That's right. Okay. And now notice what sort of efforts you're doing to hold yourself there. So you're not pushing your leg away from yourself. If you can, you're holding it. Thumb with your fingers. And your right knee is as much as possible towards the ceiling. And both hands are on the right leg. So your right hand is on your top of your right shin, below the kneecap. Your right hand, this right hand, that's your left leg. So this one, no, left one on your ankle, right one below your kneecap from in front, not from underneath. Yes. There we go. Nearly there. Nearly there. So some people have got their right hand in the middle of their shin. You know where your kneecap is? So your right little finger is just below your kneecap. And it's a really bizarre position. What could we possibly be going to do with our leg like this? Okay, but I'm going to give you a rest out of this position because for some, it can be a difficult one. And while getting everyone into the same starting position, which is pretty important if it's a key aspect of the lesson, others of you have been in it the whole time and holding that position. So just rest a moment. That's your moment. Please come back into the same configuration. And with your two hands like this, could you find a way to begin to lighten your right foot from the floor and lift it and then put it back down? What direction do you lift your foot in? Do you lift it away from the floor? Do you lift it towards the ceiling? Towards your abdomen? Can you find the direction that your leg lifts in most easily so that you're not dictating the direction that your leg lifts in, but you're exploring and finding out, is one a little change in the angle of the knee or the foot? Does it make a difference in the feeling of the lightness of your leg and the direction your foot lifts in? Okay, please leave that. Roll over onto your back. Lengthen your legs for a moment. So now on your back, bend your knees and stand your feet. Could you lift your left leg And hold on to your left foot from below with your right hand. Put your left hand behind your head and very gently, slowly. So your right hand is holding the sole of your foot from underneath. So your fingers will probably curl around to the outside edge of your foot. Your thumb is with your fingers. And your left hand is behind your head. Your right leg is in a standing position. Your right foot is in a standing position. And now, could you slowly lift your left leg a little bit into the air and bring it back down? Slowly. Pardon? Lift your leg into the air and bring it back down. So your right hand is under the sole of your right foot. Right hand, your left hand is under your head, and your thumb is with your fingers. So your fingers will curl around the outside edge. So now continue to do this, but lift your head at the same time. So you lift your head and your leg together. So it's not holding the heel, the sole of the foot. And as you lift your head, what direction is your elbow pointing in? So don't try and stretch your leg, because we're going to do this many times. So make it comfortable for yourself, easy for yourself. Do it in a way that you could keep going all day. You could do this one movement all day. So I can already see there'd be people, if they did this all day, would have sore abdominal muscles, sore neck muscles, and probably sore leg muscles. So do less, please. Both. Or noticing what you do and trying both and see which makes it, if one makes it lighter, simpler, easier. So the idea is not to get your legs straight, but to unbend it and to discover what direction does it go in easily. So if you keep hammering the same nail into concrete, more often than not, if it's not a plaster nail, the nail breaks. So very gently vary what you're doing and notice what sensations you're listening to that might inform you that this way or that way is a little simpler or easier. So you've got a movement in your arm, your leg, and of your head in space simultaneously. What leans into the floor as you do this? Does your knee change its relationship to your torso as your leg opens, as your knee unbends? What direction does the sole of your foot move in? Does your knee move in the same direction or a different one? Okay, please leave that. Lie on your back, lengthen your arms and legs. Just notice what you sense. Please roll onto your left side again. Bend your knees to begin with. Stand your right foot on the floor with your knee towards the ceiling. And this time, bring your left hand under the sole of your foot, of your right foot, from underneath. And roll left hand underneath. I haven't directed you where to put your right hand. You can put it on your knee if you want. But begin to explore rolling onto your back like this. But your left hand is under the sole of your foot. And your fingers and thumb are together. And then roll back. Notice as you roll towards your back, does it make it easier to lift your leg, to unbend your knee? And at what moment? When you come onto your back, can your left leg be standing? That means your knee would need to be bent more or less at a right angle on your side. And that as your torso rolls, as you lift your foot, bring it towards the ceiling, your torso rolls, the rolling of your pelvis scoops up the weight of your leg and brings your foot to stand. Okay, pause on your back. Please bend your knees, stand your feet, put your right hand behind your head, and hold on to your right foot, left hand behind your head, and hold on to your right foot with your right hand from between your legs underneath the sole of your foot, your thumb with your fingers, and lift your head, your leg, and your foot together. So your arm is not behind your calf. That's it. The palm of your hand is on the sole of your foot from the inside, so it goes underneath. That's the one. And you lift your head, your left leg is bent, your left leg is bent, and you lift your head and your leg together. At the same time, your foot lifts, your leg lengthens and straightens a little, and your head lifts. But it's not about straightening your leg. It's not about stretching your leg, but looking for the direction that your leg lifts in, which is easier. Your left foot is standing. Your left knee is bent, and your knee points towards the ceiling. Well, when your left leg is bent, your knee is pointing to the ceiling. I may not have been talking to you. So so when an instruction's said, you listen to what you're doing. You can compare what you're doing with what you're hearing, and see if you can refine what you're doing, or whether what you're doing already matches what you're hearing being said. So it's not rolling right and left. So what's the difference between holding your foot from underneath, so your arm comes from not over the top of the foot, but holds the sole of the foot, the palm of the hand on the sole of the foot? I've got short arms. So lift your head. So that's it. and this leg stays bent. Slower. So that's one way. Now change your hand, put it over the top of your foot, hold on to the outside edge, and now straighten your leg. And find out, is that easier? It's left hand behind the head and right hand to the foot. This is a real right-left mind twister. So it is different, but it might be difficult for you to feel the difference. Do you tend to roll a little bit more with your hand in one relationship? Maybe the weight of your leg relative to your torso is different. Okay, leave it. Lengthen your legs. And take a moment in the rest to notice if you feel any difference in the way you're lying. So now we're going to change hands and legs. So please bend your knees, stand your feet. Put your right hand behind your head. Lift your left leg and hold your left foot with your left hand from underneath the sole. And gradually, slowly, gently lift your head, lift your leg, and let them go in the direction it feels easiest. So often you find when people start, when they hear the idea of straighten a leg, whether they realize it or not, they have a preconceived idea, image of where a leg should straighten to. And you see it. So that when you give an instruction like what direction would your leg straighten easiest in, there is only one direction. So really explore a little bit towards your head, a little bit away from your pelvis, a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left. And can you do it in a way that your leg stays soft? That way for the moment. And your thumb with your fingers. Yeah. But don't try and force your leg to straighten. Listen to your breathing and find out if you can use that as a guide to whether you're trying to straighten your leg or not. So you want your leg to be soft and not stiff. So if I came along and moved your foot, would it feel like a dead bug's leg? You know how they get their fixed shape? You want That's right, you didn't have a dead bug's leg. So if you go to the end of your range, your leg will feel stiff. It's at the limit. It can't go any further. So stay in a place where if I come along and I move your leg, it still feels soft. There's still a bit of yield in the opening of your knee or the movement of your hip joint. Okay, now change the contact of your left hand with your leg. So come from over the outside to hold the outside edge over the top of your foot, from inside your leg to hold the outside edge and the sole of your foot. actually in a training program, it's much easier as the training goes on to give directions because you have so much experience using yourself as a reference. As you find the general public, often it's what leg, whose, where, and it takes a lot more time. So Moshe says in this lesson that we all suffer from the disease of achievement. So could you, he says, achieve a little less and pay attention to your way of doing it? Doing it like that, you will develop your ability to achieve more and more and better and easier. So don't force, don't effort, don't achieve anything. And if you do, really do as little as you can, if you can accept that, you'll achieve the ability to do more than you ever hoped for. But it's so difficult to give up or to be aware of when we shift into that, into a way of moving and using ourselves that's committed to achieving something. But it's recognizable. Can you recognize it in yourself? Can you rest a moment? So again, Moshe says, he's come here to talk to you today. So learn less well. Do it less well. Do it clumsily. Do it idiotically. Make all the mistakes you want, provided you do and feel it's comfortable for you to do. That's the only reason a child learns in their first 2 years of life. Nobody knows what to tell him at that age, except already to make their life difficult, like being clean, going to bed at set hours, having to pee in a certain place, things that are not spontaneous to a child's wishes. So Moshe is encouraging us to learn in a way that fits the way we can learn, where we're not imposing a should on ourselves, but that we're not trying to please someone or be better than someone or compete with ourselves. We're simply exploring with an intention, being guided in a certain direction, and looking for easy, looking for comfort, because in that process, it can change the way we pay attention. It can change the way we organize the tonus of our whole self. And it gives an opportunity, presents us with an opportunity to discover something new, not to do what we already know how to do. Please bend your knees, stand your feet. Bring your left hand behind your head and your right hand to the sole of your left foot. Thumb with your fingers. So it's your left foot, which is the other right one. And lift your head and your leg together. Gently, slowly. It's so easy to deceive ourselves. We're very clever. So can you find a way of listening where you're honest with yourself about whether you're stopping your breath, where you're going to that edge of comfort? Where's the first moment you feel strain? Can you stay outside of that, away from that place? And then you'll find you'll begin to do much less. So your left elbow, when it lifts your head, is pointed to the ceiling so that your arm helps lift your head. Your foot is lifting, your arm is moving, your head is lifting, and you may feel there's a whole lot happening along through your torso, along the length of your back and along the length of your front. And let it go. Lie down and rest. And now please roll yourself up to sitting. And can you sit with the soles of your feet facing one another? They don't have to be touching. And hold your right foot over the top and hold the outside edge, thumb and fingers together, and hold over the top. And hold your left foot in the same way. Very slowly lift your right foot over the top. Yeah, don't look at somebody else in case they're doing the wrong thing. So your soles of your feet are facing one another. That's the way. So slowly, gently lift your right leg several times, your right foot. Lift with the idea that you're thinking. So it's so difficult. As soon as I give you an image or a goal, it's hard not to achieve it. But so if you lift the leg and you pull the foot towards you, that's not the idea of straightening your leg. We don't want you to straighten your leg, but it's move as if you were going to straighten your leg. And find what's the easiest direction. Does it have a different direction here? And try your left leg. And where's your attention as you do this? Are you thinking, I can lift my foot, so what? Or can you think, what direction? What direction is the sole of my foot pointing? How easily can I unbend my knee? Can the speed be the same in both directions? So there's as much attention to the coming back as there is to the lifting. Okay, pause in sitting. And now change the way your hands are holding your feet so that you hold from the inside, underneath the sole of your foot, to curl your fingers around the outside edge. Okay, with your arms like this. First, lift one leg several times. Slowly. Gently. Staying short of any strain. Sensing your breathing. Do you let your foot rest on the ground between movements? You know, if you keep on like a then your nervous system is just getting more and more information of things being moved and not getting a chance to clear the impulses and feedback from one movement compared to the next. can be like writing on a blackboard. You know, you write one thing, you can read it clearly. But once you keep writing over and over and over in the same place, it becomes illegible after a while. You don't know what it's doing. Now the other leg. Are you getting a sense of which leg is easier to straighten? Or move towards straightening? Yes. Can you play with the distance of your feet? Fabulous. It makes a difference. Okay. Now, could you hold the sole of your left foot with your right hand and lean on your left hand behind? Give yourself a little bit of support and lift your left foot in the air as if you wanted to go in the direction of straightening it. Can you sense your hip joint? So which way of holding does your leg straighten a little more easily? Is it the right hand to the sole? Is it the left hand with the arm rotated inwards? Or from the sole of the foot? Or is it the same side hand from the outside over the top of the foot? So there's 3 different ways. Your other leg is bent. Yeah. So there's the diagonal hand from underneath. Yep. And then the same side hand in 2 ways. So notice how much, if you're straining in your arm, if you're pulling with your arm, it's not what we're looking for. Okay, try with your right leg. So first of all, left hand to the sole of your right foot. Yeah. And lift your foot in the direction of finding which pathway might it straighten most easily in. And then try the other 2 ways of holding your foot. See if you can feel a difference. So if you go to the limit of your movement, then what you will feel is the limit of your movement. It's very hard to detect a difference in sensation when you've gone to the end of your range. Because what your nervous system is more consumed with is, that's the end of my range. That's the limit. Not what sensations or movements are happening in different places. Okay, please leave it, lie on your back. Please put your right hand behind your head, bend both legs, and hold your left foot from the underside with your left hand. And lift your head and leg at the same time. Do you lift them at the same rate? Could you? And just notice how your disease is going, your disease of achievement. It's in your blood, says Moshe. So try to laugh, not be bothered about it. Not be bothered if you do it well. or better than yourself or anybody else, because then you'll learn faster. But it's so ubiquitous in our actions that we can think we're doing less, and you may well be doing less than you have done in the past. But can you find a new level, a new degree of strain that will tell you that, indicate that you could do it even more comfortably? So maybe I got occupied with Moshe. Which way would you roll as you do this? So it's right hand under your head, left hand under your sole of your foot. Is it easier to roll to the right or to the left? As you straighten your leg, don't forget that element. So it's together. We can make ourselves roll. And now notice if there's any cross motivation. If your head is lifting and turning to the left, but your leg is going to the right, that's a form of cross motivation. So as your leg, your foot opens, your knee unbends, is it easier to lift your head and turn it to the right and left and roll to the left, which is the direction the weight of your leg is going? Or is it easier so your head is lifting, your leg is lifting? Okay, pause, lengthen your legs. And now bend your knees. Change your hands and your legs. So that means your left hand will be underneath your head. Your right hand will be holding your right foot. I laugh with you. And just begin by lifting your head and your leg together. And then you're going to ask yourself the question and find a way of exploring as you lift your head and your leg, your foot. Which way would it be easier to roll? You can roll both ways. Know that. So that's not the question, really. The question is one easier than the other? Is one more congruent with this lifting of your head and lifting of your leg? Okay, rest a moment. Please bend your knees. Bring both of your legs over your torso and hold on to your right foot with your right hand from underneath the sole, from inside between your legs, and your left in the same way. Leave your head on the floor if you can, and slowly open your legs sideways with your hands. And just see, is it possible to do this without lifting your pelvis off the floor? So without your pelvis, pardon? Sideways. What do I mean by sideways? Who asked that question? Okay. Well, you could lift your feet towards the ceiling. Sideways is away from your midline, towards your sides. So your sides are lateral. They're the lateral aspects of you. They're laterally towards the sides. If you need to, yes. If you can, leave it down. But what can you leave your pelvis on the floor? So many can't. As soon as they get into this position, the pelvis is lifted. The bottom half of the pelvis is lifted, which means that your hamstrings are shorter than they could be. And what's that? Okay. Any advances on 6 inches too short? But just go gently. Keep on doing it. Only do the amount of movement that feels really easy and really comfortable. Gently, looking for the easiest direction. So if you fix your knees in space, that could influence the direction. If you hold your breath, that could influence the direction. So you're lifting your feet gently, just gently letting them move and find the direction that they move in easiest. So what about doing half of what you're doing? 50% less. 50% less. Some people are as good as maths as I am. 50% less means that your feet would lift half as high. They would go half the distance away from your bottom that you had been moving them. That's it. And breathe. Do one, then the other. So alternate, lengthening one and then the other. You feel a tendency to roll now? So as the weight, as one foot lifts away from your buttock, the weight of the leg away from your midline is greater. So it's like leaning out the side of a boat. And it rolls you that way a little. And then you can let your foot come back to your buttock. And then lift the other foot. Open the knee, just what's comfortable. And feel how the weight of your leg can roll you a bit in that direction. So just go gently, side to side like that. Do it so that it feels really nice for you. Pleasurable. Easy. And then let go of your feet. Lengthen your legs. Sense your length now. Your contact with the ground. And then slowly take your time. Roll by way of one of your sides. Then bring yourself up to sitting. And then up to standing. And notice how this lesson influences your way of standing. Your sense of uprightness, your ease of uprightness. The sense of how does it bring you into the room? Does it? Or does it take you more inside yourself? And then begin to walk around a little. And just notice how it is in your walking to have tried to stay within a range of not achieving, not trying to get somewhere or do something. Do you like yourself a little more now? Do you like this you? And we'll call it a day and see you tomorrow.